Hello again, fellow audiophiles. I am Wave Theory, and today we are looking at an in-ear monitor, and that is the TRN Rosefinch. This is a brand new 12 millimeter planar magnetic IEM that is checking in at a quite surprising 45 US dollars and 80 cents. So under $46, under $50 for a 12 millimeter planar magnetic in-ear monitor. All right, this was sent to me by Linsoul for review. They have asked nothing in return other than a fair and honest evaluation and a link to this video. They reached out to me some time ago and asked if I would like to do some reviews for them. And so I'm in the process of signing up for their affiliate link program. So the link that you see down below by the time this releases publicly will very likely be an affiliate link. If you like the description that I give of this in-ear monitor and want to buy it, please consider using that link and I will get a small kickback. But other than that, Linsoul has been completely hands-off and has given me plenty of time to do this review because I have been busy. All right, so we will go ahead and do shameless self-promotion and then we'll come back on the other side and talk about the Rosefinch. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Please remember to hit that like button, and if you haven't, please subscribe. Also, I have a Patreon set up so that you can help support me on a monthly basis, and I've set up a PayPal donation so that you can help me out in that way too if a monthly subscription does not make sense for you. Links for all of that, including the benefits, in the description below. Please check those out. All right, on with the show. Quickly, just a couple of specs about the Rosefinch here, and then we'll switch to an overhead view where I show you an up-close look at the build and the cable and that sort of thing. And again, so in here are 12 millimeter planar magnetic drivers. The cost is, again, kind of an astounding to me, $45.80 in US currency. The rated impedance here is 32 ohms, and there's a 105 decibel. They don't say whether it's per millivolt or per watt. Or per milliwatt power input, but it's a fairly efficient 105 dB. All right, so we will go ahead and switch to that video clip that I just talked about. There's an overhead view where I will talk about the Rosefinch here in just a second. But I gotta say, like, under 50 bucks here, I'm pretty impressed with this thing. I'm gonna explain why, and I just have to say, I know it's been said, but I will echo the sentiment that we are really getting spoiled these days about how good, like, these sub $50 IEMs are getting. And this one is no exception to that. So I will explain why, and so let's look at the build. Here we go. Quasi-overhead view of the TRN Rosefinch, and this is a portion of the stock packaging that it came in, this little box here, and it just holds everything together. I pulled it out because I wanted to show you that there are several IEM tips that come in there with it, but they're not really in any kind of organization. They're just in a little plastic baggie, and you open it up, it's not resealable, they just dump out, so you'll have to have a place to put them. Again, it's an under $50 unit, so whatever on that. Okay, so here's cable. We'll talk about that in a minute, and then the IEMs themselves here. Let's take a quick look at those. So a 12 millimeter planar magnetic driver in there. Okay, it has kind of this slotted back plate on it like that. It has the 2-pin kind of connection. Here is the nozzle, which is pretty standard fare, like basically average, both in terms of its diameter and its size, like its length, the nozzle length there. All of that looks like it has probably a brass tip there, but the shell here is made of plastic. It's all plastic. Again, this is a $45.80 $45 US dollar and 80 US cent, which was probably redundant because I don't know why they'd put a non-US cent on a US dollar, but anyway, unit, and it's just so, it's, you know, putting in mind like what that is. So it's fairly nice looking and all of that. Okay, so there's a good look at the IEM itself and its mate there. Let's quickly talk about the cable. Okay, it actually does not tangle very much. It's a pretty decent cable, truth be told. Like, got a little bit of memory and kink to it, but it doesn't really tangle all that much, which is nice. Okay, you got the slider deal here after the split, which I appreciated. The standard connector that comes with it is a 3.5 millimeter TRS single-ended. This is actually a modular cable system. This pops off there, okay, with that kind of 4-pin connection right there. The tricky part about this, though, is that this is the only plug that comes in the package. Again, under $50 US, that makes some sense. But, you know, for a $45 unit, I'm not exactly sure who's going to like go out and look for new plugs to try on this cable here. And honestly, you could probably get just a whole new cable with a different connector type for the price that you can likely find one of those. Maybe, I don't know. I didn't really see these. I didn't look very hard for them, but it's just kind of odd that they put that much flexibility there on this $45 unit. Okay, but anyway, those are the important aspects of the build, as far as I know. So there you go. Let's go to me back on camera to talk about sound. All right, back on the other side to talk about sound here. Let me just share really quickly the test gear that I drove these with. They spent a little bit of time on my Cord Hugo 2, fed by a 2Go streamer, mostly sourced from Rune, playing lossless FLAC or DSD files locally, or streaming lossless FLAC files from Qobuz. They also were used briefly playing local FLAC, lossless FLAC, and DSD files from the Hibi or Hibi, I still don't know how to pronounce that name, but the Hibi R2 Mark II. Okay, drove these a fair amount, and then also using Spotify, which are lossy streams, connected to my Radzone ES100 little Bluetooth DAC amp. And I used them at the gym a few times to see how they would actually work in the wild using that little setup there too. Okay, with that, I do want to make a comment that the drivability on these things is a little bit high. At 32 ohms, they are a little bit higher impedance than a lot of IEMs, particularly a lot of those that are coming in under $50 US. So I did find that I was pushing the volume levels up on those various devices that I just mentioned to get these things to my normal listening levels, which for background listening is usually between about, you know, 60, right around 68 decibels average, and then for critical listening is between about 72 and 74 to 75 decibel average. So they do require a little bit of power. They did drop the battery life of that little Hibi R2 Mark II that I just told you about, like significantly and more noticeably quickly than some other more efficient IEMs that I tried on there. So just keep that in mind here. Now, as we turn towards its sound quality, really good. I mean, for under 50 bucks, like the amount of performance you get here is quite remarkable. This is one of the more neutrally tuned IEMs that I've heard, particularly here at the lower end of the cost scale. I should say that I pretty much exclusively used SpinFit CP145 tips with this thing. Found the comfort to be great with that. I have learned to just start with SpinFit CP145s because they work really well for me. For most IEMs, these were no exception. These were among the more comfortable IEMs I have used, even for longer listening sessions, and also the sound was pretty good with these tips, so I just ran with them. All right, with that out of the way, like the tuning here is pretty neutral. There's not a whole lot of emphasis or like recesses going on throughout the frequency spectrum that I can tell. Really kind of stunningly neutral for a product of this price point. Really good there. The soundstage does not stand out as being particularly large or big. Like there's still some kind of that in your head kind of sound to it. There's decent imaging, decent separation, and that sort of thing. There's decent physicality to the bass, some good rumble. Not a ton of slam, but it is there. Okay, and that sort of thing. But I mean, overall, like, and then the resolution, like what really impressed me about its resolution prowess was like the amount of like finger actions that I could hear on bass guitars. Like just to hear what their fingers are doing on the string. Like that just came out so a lot more clearly than I expected it to for a product of this price point. So that was really impressive there. Now, again, it is under 50 bucks, so it's not going to set the world on fire in terms of how great its performance is in an absolute sense, but for that price, very impressive. If I need to quibble with any aspect, it's that the treble can be just a little bit not tonally balanced quite right. So it does get a little bit thinner and brittle and kind of shimmery in the treble, a little bit peaky here and there. Not a ton of sibilants or sharp S's in the consonant range or anything going on there, but like just a little bit of just treble thinness and brittleness to it. Not objectionable, not fatiguing, it's just there, but it's still like, again, for the price, we are talking about some pretty excellent performance. Just thought I would let you know that if you are treble sensitive or you just don't like that treble quality at all, that's something that you should be aware of here. Now, I'm not going to go on for too much longer about this thing because it is an under $50 IEM. So I'm just going to wrap up by saying here that under $50, planar magnetic, pretty darn good resolution, really neutral tuning, not a ton of like physicality and slam, but it's decent. And then like the biggest sonic drawback I think would just be that the treble is just not quite as tonally balanced as it could be. The overall presentation, again, still pretty neutral. Like the entire treble range sounds like it's in like the appropriate amount of proportion to everything else. It's just a little bit peaky in there. That's about it. Okay, so I had not heard of TRN before. I think they are relatively new. This is a pretty solid beginning for them. So I will give it a thumbs up, and really you don't have to think too hard about something that's under 50 bucks. Like they're kind of handy to have around, okay? So give these some consideration. All right, I'm Wave Theory. This has been my review of the TRN Rosefinch. Please remember to comment if you haven't yet, like this video, subscribe to the channel, check out my PayPal, my Patreon, all of those things. And as always, enjoy the music.